Education is the path to enlightenment. Education is the path to empowerment. We believe in education as the path to future. PSR Group of Educational Institutions. PSR, a name renowned for its contribution in the field of education. It has made its mark in the lives of people by enlightening them with quality education and has earned
Pleasant morning to one and all present here. We are extremely delighted and proud to organize an online workshop on national immunization awareness on this wonderful occasion. Hope it will enlighten us on the topic which we are not familiar with so far. May I call upon our beloved principal of PSR Engineering College, Dr. B.G. Vishnuram, to deliver welcome address. Sir, please.
Thank you, Jay Pushpa. I am happy to join the National Immunization Awareness Workshop being organized by our PSR Engineering College. And the distinguished resource person for the day, Dr. Durai N. Padmanabhan, SNCU Nodal Officer, Government District Headquarters Hospital, Kovilpatti. Sir, I welcome you, sir. I join with our most respected managing trustee and correspondent, Thiru R. Swarisamy, sir, and my beloved director, Engineer Vigneshwari Arun Kumar, and the principal of PSRR College of Engineering, Dr. Balasubramanian. I'm happy to welcome you on behalf of myself and on behalf of the distinguished personalities of our college, dean, HODs, faculty members and students. Dear sir, it is a very tough time that we know. Since March 2020, rather I can say from December 2019 itself, 2019 itself, we saw some cases were reported abroad. And from February or March onwards in India also 2020, 1 year and 4 months back, the pandemic COVID-19. Because so far I was also not experienced to such spreading of a serious disease like COVID-19. Initially we thought, we are all having all the foods, the food items and the way we are living. There won't be any seriousness of the disease. It was like that only, the people, they did not much care about the seriousness of the disease. The first wave came and it was there up to 2020, I think by July, August. Then there was a relaxation. We also started classes and all, direct classes, during March 2020 to say August, till then we had online classes. And all the students were studying from home only. We were also working from home only. And that scenario was changed because the peak curve was attained, in all the so many countries, and then came down. A bit relaxation were there everywhere from September 2020. But then again, we now are experiencing the second wave of the corona disease. The seriousness of the disease is still more adverse on the health aspects of the affected person, this second wave, when compared to the first wave. So the government came forward to go ahead with the inoculation of vaccination, an injection, having an option of Covishield or other injections, Covaxin. I appreciate the efforts taken by jointly by the Government of India and Government of Tamil Nadu, having sped up the vaccination the activity. Even to the village now, I can see the people are going wholeheartedly and with the pleasure, having the injection inoculated. Now it is a time for our students, the age group of from 18 to 45 or 44, I say, the registration for the vaccination is going on, and almost now a good number of students, they have also had the first dose injected. I understand from the statistics of the government that as many as 33 crore population of the people had gone through the first dose minimum of this vaccination in that is spread over 165 days. The number of people injected vaccination statistics, overtook that one in the America, US. US could have this number of injection, 33 crores. It was spread over more than a year. So the devotion and commitment and the sincerity shown by the medical officers and doctor like our Dr. Durai and Padmanabhan. Now coming to the workshop, this workshop, I would like to thank our engineer Vigneshwari Arun Kumar, our director, and Dr. Arun Kumar sir, he is our governing council member and trustee of the PSR Educational and Charitable Telugu Minority Trust. Because of the director and Dr. Arun Kumar sir, we have today a distinguished our resource person, Dr. Durai and Padmanabhan. But then I would like to have a few words about our PSR Engineering College, because our resource person, Dr. Sir, should know about that. This college was established in the year 1999 by the philanthropist, a noble cause, through R. Solaisamy sir. Because of his stupendous efforts put in over the period of 22 years, now we are in the journey of the 23rd year. So many distinctions and milestones, I could say it is endless. To mention a few, because Dr. Sir should know about that, this college is autonomous, affiliated to Anna University, approved by AICTE, and a distinction of accredited by NAC Council, Government of India, A+. A+ grade, only 99 colleges in India had such a distinguished grade of A+. And all the programs are accredited by NPA, Tier 1 accreditation, because autonomous college, and ISO certified institution, and collaboration with so many companies, and recently with the Sunline Atlanta, USA, wherein we could see our students doing job abroad from here itself, during pandemic period, and internship. And recently we are awarded by the Government of India MSME Incubation Center, Business Technology Incubation Center, which will help the students coming from Sivagasi and adjoining area, who are always aspiring for doing their self-employment. They are the business technocrats, they would like to do their own business. The center will nurture and seed the interest of the students, will take them for a business people, starting their own industry. All the good things are going on in the college, and we hope this national immunization awareness workshop being conducted today for the benefit of the students, because recently we have got a circular from the advice from the AICTE New Delhi and Anna University Chennai, that please have the awareness program conducted in all the colleges to the students studying in the college, so that they can come forward and know about the seriousness of the disease and the importance of subjecting themselves for the inoculation of the vaccination. So hope this workshop will serve the purpose. Once again, I wholeheartedly welcome on behalf of our most respected managing trustee and correspondent, R. Solaisamy sir, beloved our director, Madam Engineer Vigneshwari Arun Kumar, our respected director and governing council member, and the director of the Aarti Scans, Dr. Arun Kumar sir, and beloved dean, my HODs, professors, teachers, fellow colleagues, teaching, non-teaching staff, and students who have joined this workshop. Once again, my hearty welcome to the resource person, Dr. Durai Padmanabhan sir. Please welcome, sir. The dais is now yours. Thank you, one and all.
Yeah, very warm. I invite Dr. Balasubramanian, Principal, CSRR College of Engineering, to share a few words about our chief guest, Dr. Durai Padmanabhan.
Thank you, Jai Pushpa madam. Good morning, everyone. I extend a warm welcome to all dignitaries who are present here, and it gives me immense pleasure in introducing the chief guest. We know that the pandemic continues to evolve, and the healthcare community is continuing to deliver high quality care to all human beings in general. They are today's heroes who are saving us from unseen enemies and inevitable danger of today's pandemic. It is a crucial time to support them and honor them. Even after honoring them, it becomes our duty to pay heed to their words, and we need to obey their counseling and guidance. Towards this, we are here with one of the top personalities, a person of high honor, Dr. Durai N. Padmanabhan, MBBS, TCH, and MBA in Hospital Management, a renowned SNCU Nodal Officer of Government District Headquarters Hospital in Kovilpatti. He has completed his senior residency in Pondicherry Institute of Medical Sciences, Pondicherry during 2006 to 7. He is an active participant in infant death audit committee headed by the district collector for a decade. He is a Perky trainer of IAP National Revival Program since 2012. He has been the secretary of Indian Medical Association, Kovilpatti. Also, he has been an IAP state member from 2016 to 2020. He expounded a poster presentation on GERD in asthma at Recepicon in 2006. He is expounded on MR poster presentation on propranolol therapy in hemopneumococcal at Pedicon 2013. He has been the organizing committee member in State Muttur Nellai Neocon in 2016. He has received much honorable award of active pediatrician at the State Mamalla Pedicon 2016, and his interest lies in community pediatrics, vaccinology, child physiatry, and telemedicine too. It is our pleasure to have you here with us, sir. Kindly informate us with your valuable words. Let your speech illuminate us and emigrate all the doubt and fear of vaccines from our mind. Thank you all. And once again, I special welcome our chief guest, Dr. Durai N. Padmanabhan, sir. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind introduction. And it is my pleasure to share this wonderful morning time with the students of PSR Engineering College. I thank Mr. Solaisamy, sir, and Engineer Vigneshwari, and Dr. Arun Kumar, and Dr. B.G. Vishnuram, and Dr. Balasubramanian, sir, for the extending this excellent opportunity to share my experiences in vaccinology and regarding COVID with all the students. Can you visualize now, sir?
Yes, sir. Visualize all sir. Visualization. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction and words, sir. And today, instead of talking only about COVID, vaccination and immunization prevails for a longer period, even before COVID. And with the existence of COVID, it has become much more important. So I thought we can have the basic principles of vaccination and immunity, which is existing for a longer period, since before 2-3 centuries ago. Okay. So as many of you know, the father of immunization is Dr. Edward Jenner, who discovered the earliest vaccine for cowpox and lead to the eradication of the disease, smallpox. And this is his picture. And when we come to immunity, there are two types of immunity are there existing in our human bodies. One is natural immunity, which is also known as innate immunity or non-specific immunity. The other one is specific immunity or acquired immunity, where here the vaccine plays the main role. And this is after acquiring some antigen into the body, our body will develop immunity to that. So coming to the natural immunity, the various immune mechanisms which are already existing in our body include general barriers, either physical, chemical, or biological. Physical barrier is our own skin, nails, and hair are all physical barriers. If you take our saliva, a lot of antibodies are there. They act as chemical barriers, and other act as biological barriers. Coming to the acquired immunity, there are two types of immunity. One is active immunity, and the second one is passive immunity, and the other one is adaptive immunity. I'll discuss gradually on with the next few slides. So innate immunity is what any organism or any human being is having since birth. It is present from birth in all individuals, and once activated, the same mechanism occurs repeatedly regardless of any challenges encountered or previous exposure. And the response will be immediate. That is the best part of innate immunity. And if you take what are the parts of innate immunity, the general barriers include direct factors and indirect factors. The direct factors include our own nutrition and acute phase reactants, which are released, which are non-specific. They are generalized towards any pathogen entering into our body. It is not specific to one pathogen. Like a dog, whoever the thief enters into the home, it will bark against any thief. It is known thief or unknown thief, like that. And when it is coming as for acquired immunity, it is very specific. The dog is specifically seasoned towards the specific person, like that. So other direct factors include fever, age, genetics. Genetics also plays a very important role. For example, African people are more susceptible towards malaria, and similarly, race also plays a very important. The indirect factors include the environmental factors and other things in the surrounding, where the surrounding of the human being is plays a main role. Here comes the personal hygiene, which is maintained by ourselves and our community, and socio-economic status and living conditions. So innate immunity, the physical barriers include the skin and mucous membrane. Our skin acts as an excellent barrier for any bacteria or any other virulent organism to enter into the body. Similarly, in the respiratory system, right from the nose, many people will be having more hair in the nose. It acts as a physical barrier. It prevents most of the organisms from entering into the lungs. Similarly, in the gastrointestinal tract, and where the oral cavity, tooth and all plays a very important role. And similarly, the genital urinary tract and eyes, our eyelids act as a physical barrier. And coming to the adaptive immunity, it is the immunity which is acquired or developed by an individual only after a specific challenges encounter. So like when a thief comes into a home, the dog will recognize him as a thief. At the first instance, it is a bit difficult for the dog to identify whether he is a thief or not. But when a thief has been labeled as a thief and he enters, when he comes for the second time, the dog will bark at the earliest. The response will be very soon. In the first instance, the response will be, there will be a lag, but in the second instance, the response reaction will be immediate. And the resulting adaptive immune products are effective only against the specific challenge. Here, the initial innate immunity, most of the physical barriers like skin and mucosa, they prevent any organism, whether it is a virus or bacteria or fungus, it prevents the entry into the human body. But here in adaptive immunity, it is only to the specific, to the particular organism, particular virus or particular bacteria. And immunological memory in adaptive immunity provides greater efficiency. And if there is any subsequent exposure by the same challenge, so once the virus or any pathogen or bacteria or fungus is identified, and the memory cells are once imparted with the memory. If the organism again comes, the response will be earliest, and before the organism multiplies, they are destroyed. That is why vaccine plays a very important role. So there is a time lag for development of adaptive immunity, but the secondary response is almost immediate. So there are two major arms of effective specific immunity. So the one is humoral immunity, and the second one is cell-mediated immunity. Historically, these two play in a distinctive way, and these lead to variation in a lot of disease processes. And as we discover more and more things. The evolution also continues. The virus also mutates again and again to modify our own immunity. So the current knowledge suggests that each time adaptive immunity is activated, both arms are activated, both cell-mediated immunity and humoral immunity are activated. It becomes a matter of degree to which arm is activated. And here, COVID has a very important role. That is why vaccination holds a very important thing in preventing COVID. So adaptive immunity further may be classified on the basis of host role in developing the adaptive specific immunity. So the one is active immunity, which is generated when an immunocompetent competent host. That means the host is not exposed earlier to the particular pathogen. But after getting exposed to the pathogen, the host native immune cells responding by generating specific immune products against the specific pathogen which is entering into the body. And the second one is passive immunity, which is bestowed to the host when performed immune products are administered to the host. I'll give you the example in subsequent. So active immunity is somewhere when the pathogen is, the organism is introduced into the human body in little quantity, so that our own body and body cells identify that this is the pathogen, we have to act against it, and they produce specific antibodies. And the second thing is passive immunity, where the organism is given in very low quantities to some animals like monkeys or horses, where the body of those animals will form antibodies, and those antibodies are extracted and they are used in urgent instances in humans. For example, if you take a snake bite, where immediately after the bite, you need to develop immunity against the toxin which the snake has injected. You imagine if somebody was bitten by a snake, his body will take a long time. His body was not previously exposed to the snake's venom. So it is very difficult to save the person who was bitten. But you take at the same instance, he's been injected by anti-snake venom, where the poison of the particular snake is given in very little quantities to the horse, and the horse slowly develops antibodies to that particular snake venom, and that is extracted from the horse, and it is purified, and it is used for ready to use in humans. So when we give yearly, the person survives, and because of this, a lot of persons are saved. And similar to the snake venom, there are a lot of passive antibodies production is managed in many diseases like tetanus, hepatitis B, and even in chickenpox. In adaptive immunity, the immunocompetent cells are transplanted into an immuno-incompetent host to restore the system, whereas like bone marrow transplant or other extreme mechanisms are used, and those aspects are beyond our perspectives. So let us come, what is the antibody? When you talk about our vaccine or immunization, anything, the most desired outcome which is needed is the production of antibody in the body. So an antibody is a protein that is produced by lymphocytes, which is one of the type of white blood cells in response to a specific antigen. You see here, the antigen is very specific. If it is a hepatitis virus, it is hepatitis virus specific antibody produced to against hepatitis B specific antigen. If it is a COVID specific antibody, it is produced against COVID antigen specific, specifically to COVID virus. Specific antibodies, once formed in the body, if it is circulating already in the body, once if the specific antigen enters, they bind to the antigen and they cause destruction of the antigen. For example, for any pathogen, if our body is having antibodies in the form, in any form, once that pathogen enters into the body, these antibodies act against those pathogen and they destroy at the earliest by preventing their multiplication. And the most desired outcome for any for human treatment against any pathogen is existence of the good amount of antibodies, whether specific or non-specific to the particular pathogen, that should exist in our body. This antibody production is stimulated by giving vaccines. So this I can explain in a simple picture. If you take the antigen is the virus or bacteria or any external pathogen which enters into the body. Once it enters into the body, there is some amount of latent period for the body to respond to the particular pathogen. So initially, the initial immunoglobulin antibody formed against is IgM. So IgM is the acute, that is soon once the antigen enters, first antibody IgM is produced. So this acts against the antigen, and once the antigen decreases, that is the viral load or any the bacterial load decreases, this antibody production also will decreases and will be back to the normal. If you take this is for the immediate response, and subsequently if you take after some time, the IgG immunoglobulin is the most important one, which exists in the human body for a very long time. IgM is the immediate response and it lasts in our body for a very low period. But IgG extends in for a very long period, so that if the same pathogen is again entering into our body, it acts very actively and prevents the active infection. So if you see, so once the antigen enters into our body, there is a latent period. So IgM is produced, the antigen leaves the body or eradicated, and it subsequently the IgM normalizes. But IgG exists for a very long time, and also it normalizes after some time. So when if there is a second exposure to the antigen, if it is a natural infection and if IgG is existing, till that if any second exposure is there, our body will tackle it very easily. But if the IgG response decreases and disappears, when there is a second exposure, it will be very difficult to the body to tackle that. Here, the vaccine plays an important role. When once the vaccine is given, instead of the natural infection, it mimics almost like a natural infection and it produces some antibody. When you are getting the second dose of vaccine, this IgG will be existing in your body for a very long time, so that at any point of time, if the antigen enters or if any particular virus or bacteria enters our body, it will act against and it will kill the antigen. So you can become immune to a disease through vaccination. If you take the particular one, if both of these are a natural infection, it will be very difficult. But at the same time, the first infection can be mimicked with the help of vaccination, so that the secondary response will be very good. Artificially, we are making our body to immune to the particular organism. So immunization programs and the development of new vaccines play an important role in protecting the individuals against specific illness. And vaccination works by safely exposing the individuals to a specific pathogenic microbe and artificially increasing their immunity to it without causing much damage to the host, that is a human. This is the most important principle. The vaccine helps the individual by getting exposed to the infection, and the antibody production is stimulated without causing much damage to the humans. So there are a lot of types of vaccines are made. To make it very simple, there are I make it into three parts. Vaccines are made from live microorganisms where that have been treated so that they are weakened, that is unactivated and unable to cause the disease, and dead microorganisms. And with the advent of a lot of interventions, some part or product of microorganism then can produce an immune response. You see, in live microorganisms, they are made, their virulence is decreased by treating them with physical agents like heat or other aspects, or with other chemicals. They are weakened so that once they are administered inside the body, they will lead to mild infection. They will stimulate the good antibody response, but they will not cause the disease. So this is the earliest form where in smallpox, from the vesicles, a little bit amount of liquid is taken, and that is administered to the other humans, and from they develop minor response, and they become resistant to the disease lifelong. Here the response will be more, but the side effects will be also a bit more. And the second thing is the microorganisms are killed and they are administered into the body. Here the side effects are lesser, but sometimes what happens is the desired antibody response will not be attained most of the time. And if you take the last one after the introduction of a lot of biotechnology products, when we are taking handling with a particular organism, a particular segment of the virus or bacteria is removed so that it will create a good antibody response by the host, but will not cause any disease at all. This is the most advanced technology in production of vaccines. And now these are the vaccines which are more preferred comparatively. So the primary goal in vaccination is to provide protective immunity by inducing a memory response to an infectious microorganism using a non-toxic antigen preparation. So any virus or bacteria is itself antigen. Before it enters into our body, we are exposing our body in an unhazardous way so that it responds with the antibody immune response. It is important to produce immunity to the appropriate kind antibody, both humoral or cellular immunity. So antibodies produced as a result of immunization are effective primarily against the specific extracellular organisms and their products. Example, tetanus toxin, diphtheria toxin, and all. So passively administered antibodies have the same effect, but the effect is not prolonged. It is a one-time effect. There won't be any memory. Like in case of snakebite, if you give a anti-snake venom serum, that will titrate the venom only at that point of time. There won't be any response in subsequent snake bites at all. So if the snake bites again, the effect will be less, but there will be still the effect will be there. And the cell-mediated immunity, T cells and macrophages induced by vaccination, is important, particularly in preventing intracellular. That means viruses or bacteria which has already invaded into the cells, entered into the white cells. So ultimate goal of any immunization program is eradication of the disease. That is, totally the disease should not be present in the universe at all. For example, we have eradicated the smallpox a long back, 40 years back itself. And one more disease on the verge of eradication is polio. As you see, before 20 years and all, at least there will be at least one person with polio in every classroom. But now, with simple administration of 2 drops, polio drops, it has been eradicated. This requires that the infection is limited only to the humans, not with any other animal or environmental reservoir. And the absence of subclinical carrier state in humans should not be there. Then only the eradication of the diseases possible. That's why it's very difficult for us to eradicate malaria and dengue. Even though some vaccines are available, they are existent in the vector mosquito, and it is very difficult. We can vaccinate humans, but not the mosquitoes. And achieving elimination requires a high level of herd immunity. that now everyone talks about herd immunity and all. You think there are 100 students in a class, so there are 3 persons who are contracted the disease. The chances of them spreading the disease to other students is very high. And you consider there are about same 100 students, and already 30% have contracted with the disease. They have the natural immunity, and other 30% they have got vaccination, and they have got good immunity. So the 60%, even though when they have exposed to the disease or vaccine and have good antibody response, the remaining 40 are protected very well. By vaccinating one person, not only the person is protected, it is the whole community along with them is also getting protected. That's why the pulse polio vaccination is done on the same day. On the same day, if all the children are vaccinated, the spread of, you can break the chain of spread. This requires considerable infrastructure to support, to ensure that all at-risk population are targeted for immunization. This has been achieved, as we have talked already. We have achieved for smallpox, and we are close to the elimination of polio. And for example, this is the first and earliest vaccine where from the animal cowpox, the vesicle has contained some liquid. That liquid is taken and it is injected to the children. And this is the England prince. He was first immunized in 1780s. You see, after 4 days, the one small vesicle is formed, and if that heals, he is immune for a lifelong time, preventing from getting more vesicles. Similarly, if you see in chickenpox, if we are getting infection once in the children period, young childhood period, it offers a lifelong immunity. Hello, am I audible, sir? Passive immunization is okay. Passive immunization, as I had already described, it is the administration of preformed antibodies either intravenously or intramuscularly. As I had explained, in case of snake venom, it can be done in case with diphtheria, tetanus, or any accident exposure to hepatitis B, like that. And it is also used to provide immune protection in immunocompromised individuals, like in HIV patients, where their innate immune mechanism is weak. The antibodies acquired from some other organisms or some other humans, even the intravenous immunoglobulin is there. Whatever blood donation is done, it is not only used for simple blood donation. Even the antibodies from them can be separated, and that can be used in immunocompromised individuals for further thing. And coming to the passive immunization, in tetanus from the horse, it has been utilized. In diphtheria, it has been utilized in from horse. Like other diseases, gas gangrene, botulism, varicella, chickenpox, and rabies. Rabies also we can give immunoglobulin, where the small amount of rabies virus is inoculated into the horse and then taken back, like that. And in snake bite, and even in some autoimmune diseases like thrombocytopenic purpura and all, these immunoglobulins are used. So active immunization is the administration of vaccine containing the microbial products with or without adjuvants. Yeah, adjuvant is a product which is improves the efficacy of the vaccine. Most of the vaccines are administered either through intramuscularly or subcutaneously. There are some other vaccines which can be administered orally also. And when we come to the swine flu and COVID, even intranasal, some drops can be instilled through the nostrils, and that can be also work against the organism. So protection against the pathogenic microorganism requires the generation of effective immune mechanisms to prevent the disease. Thus, vaccines are capable of targeting the immune system appropriately by targeting both cellular and humoral mechanisms. So most vaccines consist of either attenuated organisms, killed organisms, or inactivated toxins, or subcellular fragments. And more recently, the genes from the specific antigens, where now most of the COVID vaccines, you see, it is with viral vector vaccine, where relatively harmless. Another virus is used to cause infection, but the DNA fragment of COVID virus is incorporated into that virus. So these are the various type of vaccine which are already existing. So the normal heterologous organism, the live organism itself is inoculated in case of smallpox, which is eradicated. And if you take measles, mumps, rubella, in polio, there are two types of vaccines available. One is live vaccine, which is given as a drops, and another is killed vaccine, which is given as injection. And still these vaccines are existing, and they work very well against the specific organisms like measles, mumps, rubella, yellow fever, and varicella zoster, that is chicken pox, and in BCG. And newer typhoid vaccine also that contains the live attenuated organism, which works well. The whole killed organism is used in this polio, that is injectable vaccine, and rabies. And in case of influenza, flu, where you have almost all type of vaccines like a whole killed organism, subcellular, capsular polysaccharide, and surface antigen. All types are there. So other type of vaccine, inactivated toxin is diphtheria, tetanus, cholera is also there. And if you take capsular polysaccharide vaccine, that is what used in meningococcal vaccine, that is that causes brain fever, and pneumococcal vaccine and Haemophilus influenza, which mainly cause pneumonia. And typhoid vaccine, new mode of conjugate vaccine is also available with capsular polysaccharide. And now with all these background, because most of the people are fascinated towards COVID vaccine, let me discuss in brief with the available COVID virus vaccines. As you see, process was started earlier by the European countries and US, and they have rolled out many vaccines already. Let us discuss briefly the benefits and demerits and whatever vaccine is available currently in the world. And any vaccine, before it come existing in available to the community, it has to go through the stringent trials. Almost all the vaccine which are available presently before COVID, they have at least they have got a safety period of about 10 years. And this COVID, what makes us more difficult is the problems with COVID vaccine is time, because time and the contagiousness of the disease is so rapid, so that almost half the population is already being infected by at the end of this year. So it is rapidly spreading. So the vaccine we have to produce at the earliest. And due to this urgent period, we have skipped some of the phases in trials, and which can be justified. Like simply we can tell our not only our currently whatever mechanism available for vaccine manufacturing are very safe. And if you take, the problems are more with live vaccines. And currently whatever COVID vaccine available is, none of them use a live vaccine. They are using either subunit vaccine or killed vaccine or viral vector vaccine, which even though the effect is good or not, the side effects will be very minimal. It's like there is no need to conduct a trial to wear a helmet to prove that wearing a helmet prevents head injury. Do we need to conduct a clinical trial for wearing a helmet? It is not needed. Similarly, for having a COVID vaccine also, there is a basic minimal trial research is needed. That is what completed already. That is why there is a urgent approval has been given for many vaccines. The other problem with the COVID vaccine is it is frequently mutating. For example, if you are taking a particular fragment of the COVID virus, and if you are developing the vaccine, that particular protein part which you have taken, it gets mutates, it changes little bit, so that it can infect the human again. So when it frequently mutates, we have to change the subunit very frequently. For example, if you take a flu vaccine, previously there was a avian flu, then we have a swine flu, now we are expecting horse flu. Like that, it is frequently mutating, and the vaccine available for flu has to be taken every year. Every year, with the mutated new strains has been approved by WHO, and that has been released every year by the end of June, and that vaccine will be available by July or August. And we, the most vulnerable population, healthcare people, we used to take every year the flu vaccine. Similarly, if the COVID virus mutates again and again, we may have to take periodical repeated vaccine for COVID. And this makes to develop the vaccine for COVID very difficult. And currently, the vaccines which are available, and this is the recent data which is taken from WHO from 16th June 2021. The Pfizer Moderna vaccine, the name of the vaccine is given Comirnaty Tosiemnian vaccine. This is a nucleophide modified mRNA vaccine and the European Medical Association approved vaccine. This is the latest technology. They have completed all the trials and they have been given approval from 31/12. And the second one is AstraZeneca vaccine, where it is a recombinant ChAdOx1 vaccine, where the adenovirus one is one of the virus comparatively least toxic virus, which can cause a mild infection, but not a disease. So to this adenovirus, yeah, part of COVID virus protein antigen is incorporated, and that is used to stimulate the antibody response. And this has been developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University, and they have completed their trials. And the same AstraZeneca is used as MFTS Korea, and same AstraZeneca is also available in India as Covishield. The problem is every countries they have their own drug controller general, and they have to get approval from the clinical trials to be done their own country. For example, our drug controller general of India has formulated that any vaccine, whether manufactured abroad or not, every batch has to be validated in India, and the trials has to be conducted in India. Even for this Covishield, all the trials have been conducted in India, and it has been given approval from 15th February, though it is available for urgent approval from 16th January. WHO has given approval from 15th February. So other vaccines, Janssen and Moderna vaccines, they have also completed the initial trials. And the Sinopharm, this is the Beijing Institute of Biotechnology from China. This is a inactivated whole cell vaccine, which is almost similar to the Covaxin, which is available already in India. So this inactivated vaccine is easy to develop. Their side effects are less, but their effects are also unknown. But in India, Covaxin has shown excellent response. And similarly, the Sinovac and the Gamaleya Institute of Medical Sciences, that Russian vaccine is Sputnik V, which will be available shortly. And the same AstraZeneca in other countries, in Japan and Australia, they have different names. And the other vaccines are also available, are Novavax, Sinopharm, which is also an inactivated virus vaccine. But here the assessment as a process is yet to be approved. And coming to other vaccines, the CureVac is also approved in European Medical Association, but the final decision is pending for all these vaccines, including Covaxin for Bharat Biotech. And the other companies which are seasoned in existing for a very long time, the Sanofi Pasteur vaccine, which is a recombinant adjuvator. This is a totally, the DNA is formed with a recombinant technology, where none of the natural ingredients is used. This should be the most safest type of vaccine. But as you know, it is for developing a vaccine and to to check its credibility and safety, it takes at least 10 years. So this recombinant adjuvated vaccine and recombinant protein subunit vaccine will take a very long time. And if it is available, that will be the most safest vaccine to take in future. So as I had already discussed, the problems with the COVID vaccine is in a shorter time, we need more vaccination. And by the time everyone is, before getting COVID disease, we should administer vaccine. And the COVID virus mutates again and again so that it changes its property so that it escapes the effect of vaccine. And as you know, prevention is always better than cure. So the main aspects in preventing COVID so that we can come back to normal is wear mask, social distancing, and vaccination, and break the chain. And regarding the vaccination, whatever vaccination is available, we can take all the vaccination which are available present are more safe. And with this, I come to the conclusion of this presentation. And if there are any doubts, I'll be happy to answer. I wish I made it, though it is more technical, it will be useful for all of you, I thought. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's very useful for us, sir.
So students, if you have any doubts or queries to be clarified, you can post your questions in the chat box.
Yeah, coaxium
Someone
is
has
not
posted
better
the
than
question.
Prozac. Yeah, this whenever we are getting some two choices, will be obviously everyone wants to get a better one. And at present, it is very difficult to decide. As I had told, any vaccine, it takes 10 years. And if you see both coaxin and coaxin, they have different types of manufacturing. If you see in Covishield, a part of the COVID virus subunit protein is taken and it is incorporated to the adenovirus. So technically speaking, if that particular part of protein which is incorporated to the adenovirus, once if the virus mutates, it may not be effective. This is one thing. And the second thing is we don't know about the long term of effects of the Covishield. So that is one thing. So when frequent mutation occurs, the Covishield may not be effective for that particular mutated virus. So we may need to take again Covishield, where you need to incorporate a newer protein, which is developed by mutation by the virus. But if you take coaxin, it is the whole inactivated virus is getting inoculated. So the chances that even if mutates, the covaxin may act better, but the most effectiveness of the vaccine is still under the time period for which the immunity will be there in the body is still yet to be evaluated in both vaccines. So comparatively, the side effects will be less with covaxin, but similarly, the effects will be also less with covaxin. And if it is effective, it will be against the whole virus. In case of Covishield, the effect will be prolonged, will be for a very long time if it is effective. But in case of mutation, if it happens, and it will be totally ineffective. So it needs more time to specifically answer this question. At present, I will suggest whatever vaccine is available for you, you can take it.
Thank you,
And
sir.
regarding
Any
the
other
foreign
questions from
travel-
students? Sorry, you can continue.
No problem. And regarding the foreign travel, there are a lot of issues. Some people are telling the Covishield is not accepted and coaxin is not accepted like that. It is nothing that it is not accepted, but it is not denied also. For example, if you take Covishield, it is the same vaccine what they are giving in UK. The same principle and everything is followed here. But the thing is, the Indian government wants the trial has to be conducted in India. And after that, results getting validated, only will be getting the approval. And this process will take a little bit time. And definitely, both the vaccines will be accredited soon for travel. Covishield will be approved very soon by the within 1 or 2 weeks, very soon. As it is more similar to the Oxford, not more similar, almost the same of as AstraZeneca and Oxford vaccine. Covaxin will take a little bit time, but that will be also soon included in the green passport, as everyone is speaking about.
Madam? Hello?
Sir,
Ah.
another question is
Yes, sir.
posted.
Yeah.
Sir, someone has
Can-
posted
yeah,
another
very
question.
good. Who can take vaccination and who are not advised to take vaccination? At present, the vaccine which is available can be taken only above the age of 18. There are no vaccines at present available to give below the age of 18. And when it comes regarding pregnancy and lactation, currently both the vaccines can be given to pregnant women and lactating women. And who should not take vaccine? That is somebody who has occurred the infection within 90 days. So somebody who has got a COVID infection, he can take vaccine after 90 days after he become positive. And currently, even any immunocompromised patients, like those who are already having a HIV infection, or those who are already having taking steroids, or those who are having asthma, those who have already got a renal transplant and they are taking various medication, they can safely take Covishield and Covaxin without any problem. There is no absolute contraindication for taking the vaccine. Only thing is you have to, if you are infected with COVID, you have to take after 90 days. If you have any specific allergy to the adjuvants added to the vaccine, then it is an absolute contraindication to take vaccine. That is almost negligible. That I will say, if you are allergic to the tetanus vaccine, TT vaccine, which you take from childhood for most of the instance, if you are allergic, then no need to, you are not allowed to take the vaccine. Otherwise, anyone can take the vaccine above the age of 18. And another question, now the virus is getting mutated. So as per you said, the Covishield will get ineffective. Is it right? We don't know. The mutation has not, till now, whatever protein we are using in Covishield has not get affected by this mutation. So if the mutation means a lot of changes will happen concurrently, and it is very easy to incorporate a newer protein into the same adenoviral vector vaccine. So that's why I told, like flu vaccine, every year you may have to take vaccine. If it is once, till now, the protein part which is used in Covishield is not affected much by both the Delta variant and the Delta plus variant. And if it is getting affected during the manufacturing itself, they will add the specific extra protein also to that viral vector. And that may take a bit more time. And till now, we are happy that the mutation has not affected both Covaxin and Covishield. In what basis the microorganisms are chosen for vaccination? Okay, this I'll answer in a short. So there are a lot of diseases occurring in community. For example, if you take dengue virus, Ebola virus, Hanta, chikungunya, and diarrhea, first we have to choose a microorganism for vaccination. That the organism should cause extensive damage to the population. For example, if you take yellow fever is not at all present in India. So there is no need for us Indian population to get a yellow fever vaccination. But similarly, when in Africa, it is more affected. So they need yellow fever vaccine. And similarly, in Western countries, they don't get typhoid very frequently. They are not getting a typhoid vaccination. But in India, most commonly we are getting typhoid infection frequently. So we need a typhoid vaccine. So to choose the organism or any disease to prevent it, it should be prevalent in the particular area in a larger population. For some very rare disease like yellow fever, which is not present in India, we should not go for vaccination. So this makes my answer, I think.
Okay, any other questions from student side? If you have any doubts, you can post your questions. The chief guest is ready to answer all your doubts.
If we touch the affected patients, the virus will spread us too. It depends upon which virus the patient is affected by, and the route of infection is very important. For example, if you take dengue, it is spread through the mosquito bite, and if you touch a dengue patient, you will not get infection. And similarly, in COVID, what happens is it is COVID and flu. It is the droplet infection through airborne spread. So by touching the patient, you may not get infection, but the chances that the patient might have touched his nostrils and he might have touched his skin. At the same site, if you are touching and if you are entering your finger into your nostrils, the chances that you may get a COVID infection or flu infection is possible. Regarding the COVID, it is the airborne spread. So it enters through the nostrils only. So mainly respiratory. So if you are able to touch the patient, you are very close to the patient. So by coming closer to the patient, the chances of airborne spread is more. Similarly, if you take HIV infection, the route of spread, as most of you know, it's through sexually transmitted or blood transfusion related or mother to child, like that. So those places, if you touch, it won't spread at all. And get steaming daily is good to lungs. I need a balanced answer for this. Sometimes what happens is anything of which is too much is not good for the body. Everyone is wondering why mucormycosis, this fungal infection, is more in India. The thing is steaming the lungs. I had seen one patient who was steaming the organic agricultural products like nochila, they are steaming daily for past 2 months, and ultimately once they are getting COVID, before getting the COVID itself, they are getting fungal infection. So if you are comfortable steaming to a little extent, when you are sick, if you are having a respiratory blockage, at that time you can take steaming. But a normal person, if you are taking steaming regularly, means that will affect your mucosa. That means the inner layer of the respiratory tract, there are a lot of cilia are there, like hair in the nostrils, which prevents the entry of organisms, and dust, which filters the dust entering to the nostrils. These cilia prevent the virus from getting attached to the respiratory tract. If you steam regularly, daily, by a normal person, enhances the entry of viruses. So I won't suggest steaming in a normal person. If you are having nasal stuffiness, you can have symptomatic relief. You can have it for 3 to 4 days, but not beyond that. It is different, and if it is because of infection, the treatment is different. We cannot blindly suggest like this is the best cold medicine like that. And hot water is the best cold medicine. Whenever you get cough, you can take it.
Any other questions from student side? Sir Balu sir, shall we end this question answer session?
Yes, madam, please, can proceed.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sir, for being so patient to answer all our students' clarifications. Now it's time to invite Dr. Amuda, Head the Department of CSE, PSRR College of Engineering, to deliver vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. I thank the management principal for giving me this opportunity to express my gratitude on this special program, National Immunization Awareness Workshop. On behalf of our management and our college, I express my heartfelt thanks to our beloved chief guest, Dr. Durai N. Padmanabhan, SNCU Nodal Officer, Government Headquarters Hospital, Kovilpatti. He spent with a valuable time with us and clarify many questions and discuss about vaccination and immunization and how to eradicate the viruses during this session. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your wonderful speech. I would like to thank the organizing team and faculty members and all the students for their active participation. Once again, I thank all their participation for making this program as a grand success. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Sir and Chief Guest and our students for their active participation.
Thank you,
Balu
sir.
sir, anything else to be shared?
Yes, madam. Yes, close பண்ணிக்கலாம். Sir, thank you, sir. Once
Okay,
again,
sir.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.